Hello friends and greetings for the day. Welcome back to another tutorial on ISTQB Specialist Mobile Application Tester. We are in chapter 4 talking about mobile application platforms, tools and environment. As a part of this tutorial, we are actually moving into sample questions as we are done with all the tutorials of this chapter, and I hope you have got a good understanding and clarity on the same. Now it's time to take up a look on quick sample questions to understand what type of questions can be expected from this particular session, and that could be very beneficial for any individual to understand and prepare well for the certification. Before we get into the sample questions, of course, the first thing is the pattern of the examination or the exam distribution questions from this particular chapter. The chapter 4 is expected to have 4 questions from here, where the questions are distributed just between K1 and K2, so you don't need to get into a deeper dive to answer any questions from K3 or K4 here. And again, the initial topics will be more of the K1, that is 4.1 and 4.2, and 4.3 and 4 will have the K2 level questions, that is 2. So both of these are particularly like each of the topic will have one question for sure, and initial 2 topics will have at K1 and the other 2 will have K2. Let's have a look at the very first question of this particular chapter, and says which of the following statements is correct for the development environment issued or used for mobile application development. Now, of course, we have covered our very first tutorial in order to understand the development environments and how exactly it can be used and utilized for mobile application development. So here we are trying to understand that what kind of environment are basically utilized for Android and iOS, which are your options. So let's have a look on the options. We have option A, says iOS developers use Visual Studio IDE as their development environment. I think most of us already know that what exactly a Visual Studio environment is all about, and that does not help us because this is not one which is being used for iOS development. It's more of like desktop based applications which are being created with help of the Visual Studio, and Visual Studio does not support the iOS app applications or iOS based applications to be developed. So that's not actually the right answer. Look at B. Android developers use Universal Studio while iOS developers use Xcode as their development environment. Now that's again a little strange because Xcode IDE is used for developing the apps for iOS, but Universal Studio is not a studio at all. It is basically a place to visit to enjoy your rides. You have a lot of your joy rides to enjoy, and we call them as Universal Studio. So it's not an appropriate example because we have Android Studio to do the same job for the Android apps, not the Universal Studio. So that's not also the right option there. Coming to the C, Android developers use the Xcode IDE as their development environment. Of course, by now you should be knowing that Xcode is for iOS and Android Studio is one of the environments for the Android apps. Coming to finally the option D, iOS developers use Xcode as their development environment. Yes, exactly. That's the most important and most relative and right answer to give it for this particular question. So we generally have an environment called as Xcode IDE, which is used for developing the iOS based apps. So putting it up all together, the right answer here is D. iOS developers use Xcode IDE as their development environment. And just for your information, Android Studio is used for Android apps development. Moving into the next question, which is to talk about which of the following is not a task that can be typically performed by using a software development kit, which is SDK, for mobile applications. Now you need to recall your 4.2, where we spoke about what are these development kits and how exactly it can be used and what could not be done. So if you just know what exactly it is used for, you can answer what cannot be done using it. So it's just the same, but a lot of people ignore the word not, and then they say that most of the options were looking correct. I was confused just because you didn't read the word not. So make sure that you read the question carefully and the options carefully before you pick the right answer. Let's look at the options. We have got A, taking screenshots. I think that's again a very different option. Taking screenshots can be utilized by an SDK and is listed in examples of our section which we discussed, right? So yes, exactly, that's one of the things which is happening, but we are looking for the one which cannot happen. Designing test cases, I think designing test cases have certainly different things to do all about. So based on our discussion, designing test cases is not mentioned in one of the examples for the SDK. And anyways, SDK is not something which is used for designing the test cases. We do have more appropriate test management tools, test design tools to do the similar job, and which is not the right answer again. C, pushing random events to the application. Yes, of course, pushing random events to the application is done with help of SDK, and that's straightforward from our discussion. So just go back to the tutorial and refer to that. You will get your answer. So sometimes just remembering the bulleted points mentioned in the tutorials and the syllabus can help you attain a right answer as well. So this is one of the facility which you can attain with help of the SDK. And coming to D, creating virtual devices. Again, virtual devices can be definitely utilized with help of the SDK, and that's one of the right thing to be talking about SDK to be used for mobile applications. So putting up all together, your right answer is B. Designing test cases is not one of the tasks which can be performed with help of software development kits, in short, SDK. Moving into the next one, which is the third question for our session, and we're talking about another one question to add more value from a little bit of elaborated perspective. You are the test manager in a digital banking division at a fintech company that is upgrading the Android-based mobile banking application of a mid-level financial institution. The upgrade incorporates an innovative security mechanism that uses fingerprint and face recognition features for enhanced app security. Which of the following represents the best approach to be used in order to set up your test lab for this enhancement? Now, first of all, you have to understand the scenario in order to just keep an eye on key information what you would need in order to define the right answer. But the question is typically from the lab setup, like what sort of environment would you need in order to test it? So whether it's going to be on-premise or it's going to be remote. So let's pick up the first option here. A, set up a remote test lab in order to test the new innovative mobile banking application on as many types of devices as possible. Now, when you talk about the devices, we have been learning on this. For instance, the chapter 1 that, basically, when you talk about, remote lab, of course, having a lot of devices could be expensive. And the importance here is more of like, what exactly would you need to do at the cheap and best? And at the same time, you should not be compromising with the quality of it. So generally, a tester or the team management needs to decide on that, what could be the most feasible option for us to organize and conduct. Okay, so here I think this is not something which is more relevant. Coming to B, set up an on-premise lab in order to effectively test the new unique device-related feature of innovative mobile banking application. Yes, that seems to be appropriately fine. Now, why? Now, when you talk about the on-premises lab, the main advantage of this particular environment is to enable specific test for the sensors, batteries, and unique device-related features for example, or tech parts, especially if it's done by the device manufacturer. In the case, for example, like owners of companies like Samsung, Apple, or LG, and lot many other ones, right? The question is targeted to check if the examinee knows how to distinguish between the labs by leveraging the lab's advantage. So you should know that generally what advantages do you get from different particular things. So having it on premise would certainly allow you to do a lot of things compared to the remote one. So here the major comparison in between that, whether you would need it on premises or remote. So get to know that what are the advantages between these two, and then decide what would be your right answer depending on the scenario. So B seems to be appropriate, but let's look and see. Set up a remote test lab, and I think that's where it goes because that's not meeting the functionality, the expectations of the scenario. because remote test labs are not something going to help you with all these functionalities. And D is also talking about the test lab which is remote, and in order to test the new innovative mobile application on many types of Android devices from different device manufacturers and save money for the company, that could have been done on-premise itself. So if you see A, C, D, all three are talking about remote lab, and B is the only one which is talking about on-premise. And also, as per the syllabus and understanding, we know that the on-premise will support you from a lot of things like networks, batteries, and a lot of things to be tested together. So putting up all together, the right answer is B, set up an on-premise lab in order to effectively test the new unique device-related features of the innovative mobile application, banking application. And of course, the reason is you have all the facilities as an advantage of it, where you can test the sensors, batteries, and unique device tech protocols, and it will be something which is really important for you to target for the given scenario. Well, that's all from this particular tutorial, team, and we come to an end of the chapter 4. We'll be getting started with chapter 5 and talk about the same. So stay tuned for upcoming videos. The next one will be getting started with chapter 5. Till then, if you have any questions, should you have anything else, feel free to comment below. I'm always there to address your queries and answer them well. Till then, keep learning, keep exploring, keep understanding the context. Thanks for watching the video, team, and happy learning.